Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News Weekend. I'm Dennis Ward. Jody, Wilson, Raybould, and the SNC-Lavalin scandal dominated the political scene all week. Parliament has adjourned now for the next 2 weeks. But as APTN's Todd Lamoran reports, the last few days have had their fair share of moments. Here's the latest, starting with Friday morning's cabinet shuffle.
I, Lawrence McCauley, do solemnly and sincerely...
Today's oath-taking was made necessary by Jody Wilson-Raybould's resignation as Veterans Affairs Minister. Lawrence McCauley takes over that position, while Marianne Monsef becomes International Development Minister, and Marie-Claude Bibeau is now Agriculture Minister. All three were asked whether Wilson-Raybould should remain a Liberal Member of Parliament. They all gave similar answers.
Well, and these decisions are made by the Prime Minister, and whatever decision that's made, I can live with any decision that is made, but I know Jody, a well-respected lady.
Last night, the House held an emergency debate on the SNC-Lavalin scandal. The Conservatives repeatedly asked for Prime Minister Trudeau to step down.
I have truly lost confidence in this Prime Minister and in this government. I have been shaken to my core about what I heard yesterday at the Justice Committee. It is almost too much to digest in a 24-hour period, but I know one thing. This Prime Minister should resign.
The NDP didn't go as far as demanding a resignation, but wanted judicial inquiry.
Do we live in a democracy, which I've been proud of all my life to be part of, where the rule of law means something, where we don't have politicians telling our law enforcement community what to do? Or do we live in a system like in some other fledgling democracies in other parts of the world where politicians call the shots?
One of the responses from Liberals was there was nothing wrong with trying to protect the jobs of employees at SNC-Lavalin.
Will he stand now and have the courage to say the truth, that he will support that what this government is doing the right thing to protect the job of Canadians?
Well, I didn't see them anywhere, particularly in General Motors. I didn't see them with Rona, didn't see with Davie Shipyard, and I haven't seen them do anything with respect to those pensioners and Sears who have been ripped off. And so, frankly, I don't want to hear any lessons about that.
Conservatives also pushed for the RCMP to get involved. Liberals responded that Wilson-Raybould on Wednesday did not mention the political pressure as being criminal.
But her testimony was very clear, and I'll cite it exactly. In my opinion, it's not illegal. She does say it's very inappropriate.
Green Party leader Elizabeth May sided with the Conservatives.
So I don't allege criminality in this matter, but I think it remains a possibility, and I'd like to see the RCMP take over an investigation. I disagree with my friend.
Things will heat up again next Wednesday. That's when Prime Minister Trudeau's recently resigned senior political advisor, Gerald Butts, and the clerk of the Privy Council, Michael Wernick, will appear before the Justice Committee. Todd Lamoran, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Wilson-Raybould appeared before the Justice Committee on Wednesday. She said she was repeatedly pressured by the Prime Minister, his principal secretary, and the Finance Minister to let NC-Lavalin evade a criminal trial. And she said veiled threats were made against her by Michael Wernick, clerk of the Privy Council. Here's Todd Lamoran with Thursday's aftermath to the former Justice Minister's explosive testimony.
Thanks, Dennis. The day began with Conservative House Leader Candace Bergen's request for an emergency debate. She said there's a crisis of confidence in the government, all the way from the Prime Minister to the Cabinet to Michael Wernick, the Clerk of the Privy Council, to the current Ministers of Justice and Finance. House Speaker Jeff Regan granted that emergency debate, and it'll begin in just under an hour from now. Today, most Liberal MPs have refused to take one side or the other, some saying they're both right and the truth is somewhere there in the middle. One exception was the Liberal MP for Mission Matsqui, Fraser Canyon. In a report published in a local Abbotsford, BC paper, he stated that Wilson-Raybould's testimony was sour grapes, and that her discomfort with what she described as political interference showed her lack of experience. Needless to say, it was brought up in question period.
Now we have the Liberal member for Mission Matsqui, Fraser Canyon, declaring that her statements yesterday were merely sour grapes and that that her father was pulling her strings. What disrespect to the former Attorney General. Is this the lines of the Liberal Party? Will they apologize for these sexist, misogynist comments?
At the end of question period, MP Jati Sidhu apologized for his remarks. Elizabeth May's question came in the form of some advice for the government.
Advice from my heart to my friends in the Liberal Party. Do not dispute the truth of what our former Minister of Justice has said. Do not attempt to question or undermine or impugn her integrity. No one will believe them if they do. What they must do is tell the truth, let the chips fall where they may, starting with these 3 steps. Call for a public inquiry, release the former Minister of Justice from restrictions in her evidence, and fire the clerk of the Privy Council office.
APTN National Council President Clem Chartier and Assembly of First Nations National Chief Perry Bellegarde also weighed in on the Wilson Raybould NC Lavalin affair. Here's some of what they said Thursday.
I don't think the press should be doing what they're doing and making it an Indigenous, non-Indigenous issue. To me, it's not. And if you're going to make it one, make it a First Nations Canada issue, not an Indigenous peoples issue, because the Métis Nation certainly, does not want to be included in that kind of debate. Reconciliation is real, and we're going to move forward with this Prime Minister for as long as he is the Prime Minister, and with this government as long as they do form government. And personally, with the record that we have, I wish them well.
What I witnessed yesterday, I witnessed strength, I witnessed integrity, and I witnessed courage. Something we hold up very high up as First Nations people. Now, having said that, there was something very key at that Justice Review Committee that came out. And I want to key in on that. The recommendation was for further study around that table, that Justice Committee, to look at the possible separation of the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice's role. Something good can come out of this.
Next week, Gerald Butts, the Prime Minister's friend and former Principal Secretary, is expected to testify before the Commons Justice Committee. Now, stick around. We've got more coming up after this short break. Welcome back. The 2 biggest airlines in the north are looking to merge, but federal regulators say the move could create a monopoly and hurt residents. Ken Driscoll has more from Iqaluit.
The Competition Bureau of Canada has weighed in on the proposed merger of Canadian North and First Air. They say it would bring less selection and higher prices. Here at the Iqaluit Airport, most of the flights are either Canadian North or First Air. But it was hard to find people opposed to the deal. James Killouk is from Clyde River, Nunavut, a community only served by First Air. He hopes for increased capacity.
For me, from my understanding, that could be much better for travel, because sometimes First Air usually full, and so that could be much better for travel to the other communities.
In the response to the Competition Bureau, both Canadian North and First Air pointed out that they are Inuit-owned airlines, and interfering in their merger would be interfering in Inuit economic development. But here's the thing. One of those airlines is owned by Inuit from northern Quebec. The other, owned by Inuit from the Northwest Territories. Neither of those airlines are owned by Nunavut Inuit. Even if the profits are leaving Nunavut, the flyers here at the airport are optimistic that the merger would benefit them.
I think it's going to be really good because there won't be much as competition. Price is going to go lower. I think I like it a lot.
Like most Nunavut residents, Methuselah Adeguta has a favorite airline. His is First Air, and he hopes the airline doesn't change too much under a merger.
Whenever there's bad weather, they don't land to other communities, but First Air doesn't.
The proposed merger of First Air and Canadian North is now on the desk of Transport Minister Marc Garneau. He'll make a recommendation to the federal cabinet who will approve or deny a merger. Whether or not the Competition Bureau's fears of a price-jacking monopoly come true, well, that's still very much up in the air. Kent Driscoll, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
It's been 4 months since Greyhound Bus Lines canceled its service in Manitoba. 4 companies have stepped up to fill the gap. but it's been less than smooth sailing for one. As Brittany Hobson shows us, recent malfunctions have some concern over safety.
In the morning when there was light, like you could see your breath.
On Monday evening, Vivian Rybicka boarded a bus in Thompson. She was traveling to the city with her niece for a medical appointment. 2 hours into the trip, she says the heat stopped working.
Everybody was all bundled up, and I was trying to share blankets, make sure everybody was warm, and I don't know, I just thought that was total BS.
The group was using Thompson bus lines to make the 10-hour overnight trip to Winnipeg. Halfway through the ride, Rybicka questioned the driver.
I asked him about the heat situation. He said that he doesn't know why it's like that. He said something about the sensors, saying that the sensor said it was warm enough in there, and he couldn't turn up the heat or anything.
Rybicka later learned the front door wouldn't close properly.
The door was partly ajar, open. So we froze all the way in.
Thompson Bus Lines is one of the 4 companies who have filled the gap since Greyhound discontinued service in the province last fall. Nitchissawayachik Cree Nation signed on as a partner in January. Chief Marcel Moody says Rybicka's experience is unacceptable.
I don't like to hear complaints about our businesses, because it affects the bottom line, and it affects, the customer confidence in the businesses we're trying to run. So we're trying our best to address these issues. Because our ultimate goal is to provide the best service, for northern people. There's far too long that our people from northern Manitoba, especially our Cree people, have been underserved.
Moody says this is the 4th complaint he's received, and he plans to look at some other options.
One of the things that we're considering is, at least I'm considering as an owner, is maybe we should be getting new buses. If that's what it takes, maybe that's what we need to consider.
Thompson Bus Lines did not respond to multiple interview requests. For now, Rybicka will be using a different bus service. Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The provincial organization in charge of overseeing Manitoba's friendship centres is hoping to build a new one in Winnipeg after vandals destroyed the building. Here again is Brittany Hobson with that story.
Recent vandalism to Winnipeg's Indian and Métis Friendship Centre has stalled plans to reopen the North End institution. The Manitoba Association of Friendship Centres says another centre will be built to serve Winnipeg, even if a new location has to be found.
We're committed to there being a friendship centre in Winnipeg. We're committed to assisting in the process of development or transition for that friendship centre, and we're committed to making sure that the services that are necessary are being provided to the Indigenous community in Winnipeg.
The IMFC is one of the oldest friendship centres in Canada. It was founded in 1968, but was shut down last year after controversy with a rogue board of directors. The National and Provincial Friendship Centre Associations cut ties to the centre, and the new group led by Norman Lajamodier defaulted on the mortgage. Earlier this month, Winnipeg's Bear Clan Patrol discovered the damage.
That was a huge resource to our community. It was well loved and used by many people in our community. The social hall, the bingo hall, food bank, programming for youth. Kookums had a sewing club there and things like that. And it's all destroyed now.
Bear Clan co-founder James Favel says the group was previously working to reopen the centre with a new board. He says the group, along with community members, will meet with MAC to plan for a new centre.
We're going to have a conversation on the 1st with a group of locals here to see if we can't, reestablish a friendship centre somewhere else.
MAC President David Gray says the organization hopes to see a new centre open by 2020.
We have to have certain fundamental pieces that show governance, community support, programming, and financial accountability, which are the 4 cornerstones of all the centres in Manitoba.
Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Well, the Bear Clan Patrol is looking for new leadership to take over its Thunder Bay chapter. The group was shut down a little over a week ago after months of complaints. Willow Fiddler brings us an update from Thunder Bay.
Winnipeg-based Bear Clan Patrol Executive Director James Favel says he was recently forced to cut ties with the leadership running the Thunder Bay group.
Our role in the community is very clearly defined. It's one of support and reconciliation. Our platform is never to be used to attack someone. It's never to be used, to antagonize or incite, and that's kind of what we were seeing over there.
Thunder Bay welcomed the Bear Clan Patrol to the city 2 years ago. Anna Betty Achni-Paneshkim, who was Deputy Grand Chief of Anishinaabe Nation at the time, felt the Bear Clan could help keep the city safe. Concerns over community safety, especially for Indigenous people, has been ongoing for decades. Dr. Travis Hay is a former volunteer with the Bear Clan Patrol.
And so generally, the work that we did was to simply have a presence in the community and to be there if somebody needed access to services.
Hay says initially people were happy to have the Bear Clan watching out for others, especially around the rivers. The group was even recognized with a Community Safety Award from the city.
And things seemed to be going well at first. They were doing some outside-of-the-box thinking. They were doing patrols on the lake there and on the river and in kind of kayaks and things like that's never been done,
But then Favell says he started getting complaints about the chapter's online presence.
They've been using our platform to incite hatred, cause division, and go after like the police, security guards at the Shoppers Drug Mart and things like that.
But Hayes says the city has long been divided, and now there's another problem.
And so now, at the current time when I look at the rivers and see that they'll be thawing in the next couple of months, my concerns are now that Bear Clan Patrol is no longer operating, at least under that title. What is being done in the city to make sure that when those rivers thaw, we have our ducks in a row, so to speak?
While Thunder Bay Police have done their own patrols of the rivers, Hayes said it's important to have grassroots groups like the Bear Clan watching out as well.
That while increasing police patrols around the river may be effective, there are certain people who will very understandably hide from police around those areas, making it extremely necessary to have non-police patrols around the rivers.
A new Facebook page for the Thunder Bay Bear Clan is currently being administered by Favell until new leadership is established. Willow Fiddler, APTN National News, Thunder Bay.
A Dene artist will have one of his pieces of art in the homes of thousands of people in the Northwest Territories. Details on that after the break. Welcome back. The Botanical Garden of Montreal is opening its Butterflies Go Free exhibit. As Danielle Rochette reports, it's an opportunity to learn about the evolution of these masterpieces of nature.
Thousands of multicolored butterflies fill the majestic greenhouse. They come from butterfly farms in more than 10 different countries. There are more than 150,000 species in the world, and 70 are represented here. Behind their many charms lie complex evolutionary processes to ensure the survival of the species, as explained by biologist Sonia Charret.
Those beautiful butterflies, the colors and the patterns are not there for us. It's the result of that evolution, and that's what we want people to understand when they come here, that butterflies and nature are really linked together. They have evolved together, and it's an equilibrium they have now that we should protect.
Monarch butterflies with the orange and black striped wings beat longevity records as they fly all the way from Quebec to Mexico for the winter. And the blue morpho that have developed striking colors and iridescence on their wings to mate, but can also easily hide from predators. But global changes and human-produced perturbations also affect these insects. Maxime Larrivé, head of researching collections, is concerned.
Global change is like a carpet that's sliding under their feet, and at some point, at the rate at which it's happening, they may end up completely away from the carpet and in conditions where they can't survive. So we are focused on measuring the rate at which it's changing and how and what are the traits that butterflies share that would allow them to adapt to global change.
Larrivé is also developing tools to raise awareness among the youth. A program was created 4 years ago with Inuit teenagers in Nunavik National Parks.
It's amazing to see the interest that they have and the curiosity that they have with the butterflies that we collect. They love doing it, and they have an eye for identifying them and differentiating them that is exceptional. And it's a great thing to do, and then really to see how they to share with them and to learn from them also about the land is very special.
For many Indigenous peoples, butterflies means transformation. but it's also believed to be a messenger from the spirit world. Daniel Rochette, APTN National News, Montreal.
Even if no one noticed what he was doing, a Dene artist says he would still do what he loves most, creating art. Charlotte Moore Jacobs has more on that story.
There is immense concentration that goes into his artwork.
They call him Prophet. He lived in Delany there.
And a deep sense of honor in documenting the world he sees through realism.
They never had cameras back then, right? So a lot of the stories they tell us about the old days, we can kind of visualize it in our head and how they hunted a picture behind every story, right? So that kind of protects our culture.
Daryl Chocolate is Clichon and living in Yellowknife. Growing up in Gamati, Northwest Territories, he saw his mother and grandmother sewing and beading.
I guess it's kind of cultural, you know. The elders mean a lot to us as Clicho people. They teach us a lot on the land, and I guess it's a way of giving back. It's me, my sister.
He first picked up a pencil in kindergarten and has been self-taught ever since. He graduated high school art class with his sketches, paying tribute to his NBA favorites.
The challenge comes is when you start making the details, make it look exactly the way the photograph looks like, the way the person looks with the shape of the eyes, the nose.
But he isn't just known for portraits. This week, Chocolate won the Northwest Tell art competition.
I never really thought of entering the phone book directory. I just kind of looked at that photograph and like, maybe I should paint that.
This painting will be seen on the cover of the 2019 NWT phone book.
To have my artwork go on a phone book, I mean, that phone book's going to be all across the Northwest Territories, so it's pretty ecstatic.
The $3,000 prize will go towards his family.
Eventually, I'd like to pursue being a full-time artist. It takes a lot of work, and right now I got a family to support.
While art may not pay the bills yet, Chocolate is rich in inspiration to create.
The beauty of the nature and all that, it just inspires me to paint.
Charlotte Moore Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Some truly incredible art. That's all the time we have for APTN National News Weekend. Thanks for being with us. For the latest, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.